Hi, I'm Jim Petersen, founder of Stress Master International. Welcome to another case study in how the Stress Mastery program has been integrated into an executive development program at Banamex. Today, I'm interviewing Carlos Nunez, the executive director of the Citi Banamex Center for the Development of the Family Enterprise. Carlos has been using the Stress Mastery program for over 6 years as part of the Peak Performance 2 program, which was designed by Susan and Barry Robinson and their team at Stop at Nothing. Susan has been using the Stress Mastery Questionnaire and our program for over 15 years with great success in organizations like J.P. Morgan, Nationwide Insurance, Grupo Marti, and of course Banamex, along with many, many others. I think you will see that integrating the SMQ and the related stress mastery materials into a broader human capital development program is an excellent model. So let's get started. The interview takes two parts. The first part is about Banamex, Stop at Nothing, and the Peak 1 program, and how it all got started and why it got started. This is an important background for Peak 2, which is where the Stress Mastery program fits in. So part 2 details the way in which the Stress Mastery program has been integrated into Peak 2 and how successful it has been with the employees at Banamex. So let's listen to what Carlos has to say about Peak 1 and how it all came about.
Met Banamex, and she described the programs and the help she could provide to Banamex. And the presidency of Banamex got very, very interested. And they started very soon working with Sue. Sue did many useful things for Banamex. Among others, she started imparting a peak performance program. And I will tell you about that because it has been a terrific success. And then she started teaching HEALS, the High Impact Leadership Skills Program, which is a seminar that takes one whole week. And she also has been advising Banamex, consulting with Banamex in terms of organizational culture, organizational change, helping the top management in Citi Banamex to undergo important changes. Now, among these three programs which have had a very important impact in Citi Banamex, I'd like to tell you something about the peak performance that you know.
Okay.
Peak performance started in Banamex back in 2009, I think. And it was imparted by Stop at Nothing consultants. The initial purpose was to give the program to the top management, perhaps 4 or 5 seminars, and the managing directors, top managing directors who took the seminar thought it was fantastic, and they asked the bank to give the program to the next echelon level. And they did so. And then these guys in turn asked for the seminar to be provided to their collaborators. And then the bank decided that myself and the president of Universidad Banamex, the Citibank University, Citi Banamex University, should go to the United States to be trained. And it is a complex, deep, challenging training. It takes close to 2 years. You have to work very hard. By the way, I went many times to Jacksonville to be trained there and to co-impart the seminar. Then we started imparting the seminar to our colleagues, and it is very gratifying to me to share with you that we are now giving the 51st seminar, and it is the ninth or eighth year for us to be imparting this seminar, because it has been a complete success, and it has had a very important impact on our colleagues.
Can you tell us a little bit about the nature of the peak performance? You don't have to go in depth, but maybe give a broad stroke about what you cover and what the general framework is, and how it just is integrated with the culture and Banamex.
Sure, Jim. I'll be delighted. Let me put it in these words. Who you are, what you have achieved, and what problems and failures you have faced in your life is due to your actions, to your performance, to your decisions. But your performance, your decisions are somehow determined by your internal operating system. We, as the computers do, have an internal operating system. And in our theoretical framework, this internal operating system consists of three main components. One is your beliefs, second, your thoughts, and third, your emotions. Thoughts, beliefs, and emotions impact each other. It's a dynamic circle. Beliefs, all of us have beliefs about ourselves, about the world, about our abilities and skills, and that has a huge impact on your performance. Those who have a very strong set of beliefs, of negative beliefs, of limiting beliefs about themselves, will not have the same success as those who have a very important set of positive, empowering beliefs. Regarding thoughts, you know better than I do, scientists have found that all of us have between 40 and 60,000 thoughts every day. Your thoughts are pure dynamite. They are either poison to your soul, to your inner self, or excellent nutrition to empower you. And it's important to distinguish, to identify those thoughts that are positive and those ones that are negative, in order to be able to reinforce the positive ones and get rid of those that are limiting you. And regarding emotions, we all have known, we all have met bright executives who cannot be promoted because they have derailers, emotional derailers. Either they get angry very easily, or they get depressed easily, or different emotions can take over their minds. So in this program, we help them to be aware of those elements of your internal operating system, so that you can choose. If you are aware, you have the power to change what you decide to change. This is the first part of the program, which also includes the MBTI test, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, to which we devote 2 or 3 hours because it has had an important impact in our managing directors. That's the first part of the seminar. The second part, it consists on identifying which behaviors you show that are determined by your internal operating system, that by this moment you know much more, you know much better. And the third part gives you the opportunity to develop a plan for your life, to decide your most important priorities in the different fields of your life, your family life, your social life, your spiritual realm, and your work, your labor. Executives do this with a lot of enthusiasm. because, we have seen that even most of them are experts in setting goals, because all of them are managing directors, so all of them have goals
Right.
at work. They know how to set goals in a written form and how to check them up with their bosses at least every quarter. But what is impressive is that they do not set goals for their lives. And they tell you, well, I think I have my goals very clear. But they don't, because they have broad, general, abstract ideas of what they want to accomplish in life. When we invite them to put that in specific terms, in precise words, and to set life purposes for them, they get a sense of that they are doing something transcendental and important for their lives. This is a general description of our program. Now, Peak 2 is the second level, the next step for those who have taken Peak 1. And one central part in Peak 2 is the stress problem. You know much better than I do that President Obama called stress the most important problem for the 21st century. You have the statistics, and for example, Americans are spending billions and billions of dollars every year in pills to control stress. And this figure is growing at a very high rate. So it is very important to give our corporate executives the opportunity to identify which are the sources of stress, why they are getting so stressed on one side. And on another side, it's important for them to, and they have the right to know that the illnesses, the problems they are developing, or they will be developing, or they will be aggravating due to stress. And we devote time to analyzing the consequences of stress. When you talk about all that, and they have the opportunity to look at themselves with your questionnaire, with your methodology, they get a sense of relief. It's it's where they start solving the problem. Because thanks to your diagnostics, they understand where they are, why they are so stressed. Some of them, Jim, tell us, gee, I thought this was a normal situation. Now I understand this is kind of an illness, and a very serious illnesses with severe consequences. Some of them had thought that insomnia and problems in the stomach and problems on the skin and all that are normal things in life, because they got used to live under stress. When they realize this, a huge window opens for them, and they say, hey, I want to work on this. Well, you have the first tool, which is your diagnostics.
The Stress Mastery Program should be described a little bit at this point. The first step in the Stress Mastery Program is an assessment using the Stress Mastery Questionnaire. This is the diagnostic that Carlos is referring to. Each person takes the Stress Mastery Questionnaire online. This 87-question survey basically provides information on 11 risk scales. Each person receives a stress profile immediately after taking the Stress Mastery Questionnaire. The stress profile is a one-page snapshot of the 11 SMQ scales. Each of the scales is norm-based, so the scores for the individual are then compared to the normative group. The higher the scores, the greater the risk factor. We then provide the trainers at Banamex with an individual stress report for each person. We tailor this to meet the needs of the trainers at Banamex so that they can communicate more effectively with the trainees. In addition, we provide a more detailed 3-page stress report that showcases each of the scales, along with how the individual responded on each of the questions within those scales. This provides the ammunition that the individual as well as the trainers can use when working with their group. Then we provide the trainers at Banamex with a detailed group report. The group report essentially shows how each person scored on each of the 11 scales. As you can see in the illustration, each person is showcased at the top along the left side of the 11 SMQ scales, and in red you'll see the high to medium high scores for each person on any particular scale. Group report is very valuable because it gives a good overview of how everybody scored from low to high on each of the 11 SMQ scales. In addition, we highlight the medium high to high scores so that the trainer and the individuals can see what their key areas for focus might want to be. Well, this is a brief summary of the program we provide to Stop at Nothing and Banamex for their program. Carlos will give us more information about how he exactly uses the materials as part of his overall Peak Performance 2 program.
Let's explore what each of those indicators mean. And then we use your brochure, your booklet, and in groups, we separate them in groups, and they read your guide, and they talk about it in groups, and they work out an individual program to deal with stress with the help of your guide.
Let me ask a question, how you do that. Logistically, do you divide the groups up randomly? Do you choose certain people with certain scores on the SMQ to be in certain groups? How do you actually do that? That would be very helpful for others to kind of get a sense for your process.
We have done both, Jim. Well, first, we have explained what the diagnostics means. And then we have provided them with their results. And then we separate them in groups. At the beginning, we did it randomly.
Okay.
Now we tend to do it by groups that have similar indicators, similar marks in
Okay.
each indicator.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has been more useful because they understand each other much better.
Mm-hmm.
The advantage of having them organized randomly is that those who do not have that problem, who are, let's say, low in that indicator, can alternate, can have a very constructive dialogue with those who have a high mark, a very high mark. So that's useful.
Sure,
because those who got a very high mark said, so you don't have that problem. How do you do it? What's wrong with me? And that's interesting. But I have gotten the impression that it is more effective because they can talk the same language.
Mm-hmm.
They
Good.
share the same problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. Very good. So how long does your sessions last that deal with stress, and do you integrate the concepts into other aspects of the Peak 2 program?
Oh, yes. That's a very important part because, let me answer the second part first, because they take their Stress Master questionnaire, the results, and then in their life plan, they include what they will do in order to work on solving these problems. Now, how much time do we take? We devote around 15-20 minutes to explain what the diagnostics means,
Mm-hmm.
and another 10 minutes to answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
Then each of them gets her own results. And we give them the opportunity to go to the guide immediately and start looking at it, start reading. And then after some minutes, when the group is ready, we tell them, okay, now you will have the opportunity to talk about this with your colleagues who have a similar score, and to draw an individual plan so that you can work on this and have a happier life and be more effective in your life, in your family life, in your social life, in your work, because you have had a very heavy burden that has been limiting you. And they devote their time to work a personal plan.
And do you provide any additional training and techniques, or approaches, or strategies to deal with each of these areas independent of the group working together? Do you
Yes.
have a kind of a follow-up kind of program that you
Sure.
delve into what are the strategies you might be involved with, in that way?
Let me describe some of them for you. Since they have taken the MBTI in peak 1, we help them find out what problems, what sources of stress, what stressors might come from dealing with people who have a different profile in the MBTI. Sometimes at home, you have a stressor because you and your wife have a very different profile in terms of MBTI. When they come to understand that, they are relieved, because they see that shouldn't be a problem, because they could help each other and complement each other. Just realizing this is very important. We also, yes.
So they are basically learning to accept each other because of the nature of who they are.
That's the point.
Rather than blaming them for being something that they can't be at the moment.
Yeah, rather than blaming others at home or at work or their boss or their collaborators, they understand that they are different. It's not that they are bad. They are different.
Yes.
And that helps a lot.
Sure.
We do the same with Firo, because Firo helps them to deal in a more effective way with their superiors and their collaborators. It helps them understand that you can deal with them in their own language, and that will help, and that will relieve some stress. They will be able to release some stress as they are able to communicate with others in their language. For example, to communicate with her or his boss in the same language. Then, well, we have already done the exercises with the Stress Master questionnaire, no? And then we work on a very profound exercise designed by Stop at Nothing, which we call it your history of life. We use, how do we say this in English? Neurolinguistics programming in order to help them find out the most important events in their lives that have a mark in the way they live and they do and they think. We call them the most impacting events. And they identify the most impacting negative events, those which have left a scar in them, sometimes in a subconscious manner, and then it is the impact is yes, it is larger.
That's a very powerful technique.
Yes.
And I'm sure you get some pretty good reactions to that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. People are really moved. And then they identify the most important positive events, those that have helped to affirm their self-esteem. And they link those events with their current life. What we do then is that we help them anchor their strengths visualizing in a very intense manner the most positive events. And they anchor the strength they got from those positive events. And then with that strength, armed with that anchor, with those strengths, they go back to live again, to visualize, but let me tell you, to live again those past negative events. And they pardon themselves automatically. They pardon those who have hurt them, and somehow they have a self-dialogue with themselves in that specific situation, alleviating himself, but in that situation lived in the past. And that's a very powerful exercise which helps you get free from some scars that have been acting on yourself.
Do you do that in a large group or a small group, or is that an individual task that they engage in and then bring back to the group? How does the dynamics work in terms of how that is done?
It has to be a small group. Let's say not more than 12 executives. Because first, we explain the technique in a very detailed form. We answer questions, and then we enact. We do a pilot of that technique. The 2 or 3 facilitators, instructors, for example, Gabriel Molina, who is the president of the Universidad Banamex, and myself. And we do the exercise in a very sincere, authentic manner. And we live our problems again. We go back to them, and we get alleviated. We obtain a very useful result from living that experience again. And they see that, and then we give them a guide, a written guide, so that each of them can be the coach of a partner. We have 6 pairs, and one is the coach, and then the other guy becomes the coach as soon as the first one has finished the exercise. And we are there helping them, because some people have a very profound, deep experience and need some support.
How long does that usually last? Is it a couple of hours?
Yes, a little bit more than that. The explanation takes 10-15 minutes. We talk about neuro-linguistic programming, about what anchoring means. And then we do the exercise ourselves in front of them. That takes 15-20 minutes. And then we let them go. And some do it in 20 minutes, but some take 30 or 35 minutes.
Terrific. Now,
hours, yes.
This sounds like a great program. Overall, the length of the Peak 2 program is how long? Just from, is it a 2-day program?
2 days and a half.
What was that?
2 days and a half.
2.5 days. Okay, great. What has been the impact on Banamex of the program, and have you seen results from all aspects of it, not just the stress mastery program, but all of it? I'm assuming it's been well received. Is that correct? And you've seen changes in people?
It has been very well received, to the extent that our executives keep asking for the program, and we keep imparting the program. It's been more than 6 years, much more than 6 years. Yeah. And something that is symptomatic is that I receive calls or letters or mails from my peers saying, "Hey, Carlos, what did you do to my boss? Now he listens to us very carefully. What did you do to my boss? Now she is tranquil. She's not as intense as she used to be. What did you do to her? I want to take that seminar." Yeah, we have
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, it sounds like the program has gone very well, and I'm assuming that you like the program that we put together, and I really appreciate the fact that you're continuing to use what we have, and we want to continue to develop it with your help and guidance, and with Susan, to be an even more effective approach. As you can well see, stress is not an easy topic. And what I see happening with your program, everything you do is impacting the stress levels of people. You're
Yeah,
improving communication, you're improving acceptance of each other, you're understanding the source of your stress, you're understanding the stressors and what you can do about them. All of that is part of the whole program. So I don't like to isolate the stress mastery program from it, because it's really an integral part of
it's an
everything that
essential
you
part
do.
of it.
I mean, that's what we're trying to do: help people be more effective, feel better about themselves. And I think that's really commendable that Banamex has taken this so deep into their culture, and that you've helped that to be the case. Uh, so I'm just want to just say thank you for all the good work you've done.
No, we thank you. We
Thank
thank you. We appreciate your this instrument, this technique, this methodology very much. It has had an impact in our organization. Thank you for keeping doing this work that helps people be happier.
Well, I think that's great. If you have anything else we can talk about, but
Thank you
I
very
don't.
much, Jim. I
No,
really appreciate your time and having had this opportunity to talk again, because there was a long time since we hadn't talked.